And the response is still the same. We're still investigating. Nothing new, no leads. At least if they have leads, they're not sharing it. She was screaming and crying. She's screaming, saying she wants to go home. She wants her mommy. She told us the other day that she was talking to my stepson. She was saying that she prays for Gabby. She wants me to find her. Randomly, she'll ask me if I went to go look for her, if I'm searching for her. She's only 3. So she's not doing well. She has separation anxiety, not just with me, but with my daughter as well. We're gone for too long. She has to call us.
Very disappointed. I feel like the city of Macon has let us down. I feel like they could have did better. They could have handled this case way better than they have handled it.
What happens when a young mother's cry for help becomes her final message to the world? When social media platforms that promise connection become the last place someone shares their truth before vanishing forever? What happens when the person who should protect you becomes the one who destroys you? When a child's innocent words reveal horrors too terrible to speak aloud? "Mama is sleeping in blood," whispered a toddler, a phrase no parent ever wants to hear. How do you make sense of such a haunting message? And how do you fight for justice when the darkness comes from within your own family? In an age where we document our lives through screens, where vulnerability is shared in 60-second clips, and where millions scroll past stories of struggle daily, one young woman's posts would become evidence in a case that would shake Georgia community to its core. Her words, preserved in the endless scroll of social media, would outlive her voice. Her story would transform from personal plea to public tragedy. The city of Macon, Georgia, seemed like any other place where families lived, laughed, and dreamed. But beneath its quiet streets, a nightmare was unfolding, one that would shatter a family and leave a community haunted. Imagine a young mother, barely an adult herself, reaching out in desperation, sharing her pain with strangers online, begging for help. What if her cries were not just ignored, but met with something far worse? You are about to witness the story of a devoted young mother whose life was stolen in the shadows of betrayal and violence. Her story is a painful reminder of the dangers hidden behind closed doors and the urgent need to listen to those who suffer in silence. If you're ready to understand how digital footprints can become final testaments and how a mother's love can transcend even death, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Truly Criminal Network, and like this video. Tell us your name and where you're watching from in the comment so we can give you a shout out in our next video. Our team took 2 weeks of intensive research to gather every part of this story, because what you're about to hear will stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Behind the haunting words and unanswered questions was a young woman named Gabriella Dixon. At just 18 years old, she was a mother not just to one child, but to 2 young children who depended on her every day. Gabriella's world revolved entirely around them. Her love for her family was the force that carried her through each day, a light shining brightly even when circumstances threatened to dim it. Though young, Gabriella carried the enormous responsibility of motherhood with quiet strength and fierce devotion that deeply inspired those who knew her. Her days were filled with the routines familiar to many parents, preparing meals, soothing restless children, and juggling the endless demands of family life. From the early morning cries of a newborn to the toddler giggles that echoed through her modest home, every moment was laced with her touch. She sang lullabies with a tired voice and fed little mouths before she even thought of herself. Her hands were constantly full of diapers, bottles, small hands, but her heart was even fuller. Each sacrifice, each sleepless night, she embraced with grace because she believed in giving her children the life they deserved. But Gabriella's life was not without its difficulties. Like many young mothers, she faced challenges that tested her resilience. There were days when money ran low, when loneliness crept in like a shadow, and when the weight of her reality threatened to crush her spirit. Still, she stood firm. She learned to smile through exhaustion and push forward through fear. With limited resources and sometimes limited support, she found ways to keep going, not just for herself, but for the little eyes that watched her every move and the little hearts that beat next to hers. Yet, despite the hardships, she held on tightly to her dreams and hopes for the future. Gabriella dreamed of becoming a great woman, of one day building a stable and peaceful life for her children, a life she never had but was determined to give. She scribbled ideas in worn notebooks during nap times, whispered prayers at night while staring at the ceiling, and made silent promises to her babies that one day, everything would be better. Her mother, Gabby Cersei, often spoke of Gabriella's warmth, kindness, and unwavering dedication to her children. Her smile could light up the darkest room, and her laughter, rare but beautiful, was a melody her mother cherished. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, and above all, a mother whose presence was deeply felt and whose absence now leaves a painful void. To her family, Gabriella was far more than a victim or a statistic. She was a bright light, a source of love, laughter, and hope. In the quiet corners of their hearts, she lives on in bedtime stories her children will one day hear about her, in family photos where her eyes sparkle with life, and in every tear shed in remembrance of the young woman who gave everything for love. Her story is a reminder that behind every name is a soul, behind every tragedy, a dream unfulfilled, and behind every young mother like Gabriella, a legacy of strength that should never be forgotten. In the weeks leading up to her disappearance, Gabriella began to share parts of her life on TikTok. These posts were raw and unfiltered, offering a glimpse into her reality marked by fear, pain, and desperation. She spoke openly about struggles that many might have missed or dismissed, a silent plea for help wrapped in the digital world's fleeting attention. Her videos revealed a young woman trapped in a living hell, reaching out in the only way she knew how, hoping someone would listen. Gabriella's voice was real, vulnerable, and haunting, a part of her contrast to the image of a happy young mother that the world might expect. Her story was not just about loss, it was about the hidden battles, many fights in silence, the dangers that can lurk behind closed doors, and the urgent need for compassion and awareness. Her family described Gabriella as someone who dreamed of a better life for her children, someone who fought daily to provide stability despite the obstacles. She was a mother who wanted nothing more than to see her children grow up safe and loved. But beneath that hope was a growing fear, a fear she shared only in fleeting moments online, moments that now serve as a haunting testament to her reality. Gabriella Dixon's life was a delicate balance of love and struggle, a young mother trying to hold her family together despite the growing shadows around her. But in the final days of October 2023, that balance was shattered in a way no one could have foreseen. The last time Gabriella was seen was on October 27, 2023, in Macon, Georgia. From that moment, the trail grew cold and questions multiplied. Where had she gone? Why had she vanished without a word? And most haunting of all, was she safe? In the days that followed, Gabriella's family grew increasingly alarmed. The silence was deafening. Her mother, Gabby Cersei, who had always been her daughter's fiercest protector, found herself desperate for answers. Calls went unanswered, messages ignored. The children, too young to fully grasp the gravity of the situation, were caught in the middle of a growing storm. One detail sent a shiver through everyone who heard it: the words of Gabriella's 2-year-old daughter. In the innocence of a child's voice came a devastating message: "Mama is sleeping in blood." The phrase was simple, yet it carried unbearable weight. How could such a young child speak of something so dark? What did she truly mean? Those words pierced through the heart like a blade. They weren't just haunting, they were devastatingly unnatural for a child so young. To hear such a statement from someone barely old enough to form full sentences was unsettling. And yet, it came with such clarity, without hesitation, as if it was something she had seen and would never forget. The family's worst fears began to take shape. The innocence of that one line shattered any lingering hope they had that Gabriella might return safely. As they clung to memories, searching for answers and praying for a different outcome, those words echoed again and again in their minds. "Mama is sleeping in blood." A toddler's attempt to describe something no child should ever witness became the turning point, the moment everything changed. It was no longer just a missing persons case. It was a cry for truth, cloaked in innocence, but heavy with horror. Adding to the growing unease were strange and suspicious behaviors from Reginald Harris, the father of Gabriella's children and her former partner. In the days after Gabriella disappeared, as family and friends desperately searched for her, Reginald's actions stood out alarming and peculiar in ways that could not be ignored. He sent cryptic texts that raised alarm, messages that spoke not of concern but of concealment. He asked for bleach, he asked for trash bags, seemingly ordinary items until placed in the context of a missing person. Then they became ominous. They hinted at attempts to erase something, to clean something, to hide something. Requests for bleach and trash bags, messages hinting at attempts to erase evidence, painted a disturbing picture. His words were vague yet pointed, like puzzle pieces that didn't quite fit but still hinted at a terrible truth underneath. Family members recounted how his tone felt rehearsed, his concern thin, his reactions offbeat. When asked direct questions, he gave inconsistent stories. When pressed for timelines, he stumbled or changed details. His evasive answers only deepened suspicion, like he was building a wall of confusion to keep the truth from getting out. Those closest to Gabriella began to see the contrast. A young mother missing without explanation, and a man who should have been distraught, instead acting as if he had something to hide. The weight of his behavior was not lost on anyone. His refusal to engage openly, his strange detachment, and the disturbing nature of his messages only fueled the growing sense that something had gone terribly wrong, and that he may know far more than he was letting on. As the investigation continued, Gabriella's loved ones were left with more questions than answers. But one thing remained certain. The voice of a child had spoken a dark truth, and the shadows surrounding Reginald Harris could no longer be ignored. Gabriella's disappearance was reported to authorities on October 30th, 3 days after she was last seen. The delay was heartbreaking, but understandable. Her family hoped she might return, that this was a momentary silence. But as hours turned into days, hope began to wane. The community around Gabriella was shaken. A young mother, full of life and love, had vanished without explanation. The fear that something terrible had happened was palpable, even if no one could yet say what. Law enforcement launched an investigation, placing together fragments of Gabriella's last known movements. They spoke with family, friends, and neighbors, searching for any clue that might lead to her. But the trail was tangled, obscured by conflicting accounts and silence. The children's father, Reginald Harris, became a central figure in the investigation. His behavior was erratic, his statements contradictory. Officers noted his suspicious actions, requests for cleaning supplies, and attempted to manipulate the narrative. Warrants were issued, and soon Harris was arrested on multiple charges, including aggravated assault and tampering with evidence. But the most serious charge, murder, loomed over the case. The investigation took a grim turn when human remains were discovered by a construction crew in Monroe County, Georgia. Authorities believed the remains likely belonged to Gabriella Dixon, confirming the worst fears of her family and community. The discovery sent shockwaves through those who had been holding on to hope. Another individual, Jatarvius Price, was arrested as a person of interest, charged with conspiracy to commit murder. This development suggested broader involvement and added layers of complexity to the case. Throughout the investigation, law enforcement urged everyone to be patient. They emphasized the meticulous nature of their work, the need to follow every lead carefully to build a case that would stand in court. The community's desire for swift justice was balanced by the demands of a thorough and victim-centered process. Gabriella's story, once shared as a quiet plea on social media, had become a tragic mystery that gripped a city. The young mother's life, her struggles, and her disappearance were no longer just personal heartbreaks. They were a call to attention, a reminder of the dangers that can hide behind familiar faces. As the investigation unfolded, the questions remained. What truly happened in those final days? Who was responsible for silencing Gabriella forever? And could justice bring some measure of peace to the family left behind? If you made it to this moment, Grab your popcorn, subscribe, like this video as we dive deeper into what happened next. When Gabriella Dixon was reported missing, the urgency to find her was immediate, but the path to the truth was anything but straightforward. The investigation that followed was marked by twists, uneasy revelations, and a growing sense of dread no one wanted to face. From the beginning, law enforcement navigated a complex web of relationships and conflicting stories. Gabriella's family was desperate for answers, and the community watched closely as the search unfolded. What started as a missing person case quickly escalated into something far more serious. One of the earliest troubling signs came from Reginald Harris's behavior. Investigators uncovered messages he sent requesting bleach and trash bags, items often linked to attempts to destroy evidence. These requests, coupled with his inconsistent accounts of Gabriella's whereabouts, painted a disturbing picture. Authorities noted his evasiveness during interviews. Rather than cooperating fully, Harris seemed intent on controlling the narrative, shifting blame, and avoiding direct answers. His suspicious behavior did not go unnoticed, and soon, warrants were issued for his arrest on charges including aggravated assault and tampering with evidence. The arrest of Harris marked a critical turning point. The case was no longer just about a missing young mother. It had become a criminal matter with serious allegations. But even with Harris in custody, many questions remained unanswered. Adding to the complexity was the arrest of Jatarvius Price, charged as a person of interest. Price faced charges of conspiracy to commit murder, suggesting a broader network of involvement. Details of his role were closely guarded, but his arrest revealed the multifaceted nature of the case. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered more troubling evidence. The discovery of human remains by a construction crew in Monroe County sent shockwaves. While authorities awaited confirmation, the remains were believed to be Gabriella's. This devastating finding shifted the investigation from hope to tragedy. Throughout the process, law enforcement worked meticulously, placing together evidence, examining communications, and gathering physical evidence. They relied heavily on witness statements, including Gabriella's family members, whose accounts provided crucial context. The children's own words, especially the haunting statement from the toddler about her mother sleeping in blood, added a dreadful dimension. The investigation highlighted the challenges of domestic violence cases. Gabriella's story was one of many where the victim's struggles were hidden beneath the surface, masked by appearances and complicated relationships. It was a subtle reminder of how vulnerable young mothers can be, especially when those closest become threats. The family's advocacy played a vital role. Gabriella's mother, Gabby Searcy, became a vocal voice demanding justice, refusing to let her daughter's story fade. Her tireless efforts helped keep the case in the public eye and supported the investigation. As the investigation progressed, pieces of the case slowly came together. Suspicious texts, attempts to cover up evidence, and involvement of multiple individuals painted a picture of a crime both calculated and devastating. Yet, many details remained shrouded in mystery, leaving the community wondering about the full extent. The case raised important questions about how society supports victims of domestic violence and young mothers facing abuse. Gabriella's story became a catalyst for conversations about protection, awareness, and the urgent need to listen to those who reach out in pain. The investigation was a painstaking journey through grief, suspicion, and the pursuit of justice. It revealed harsh realities beneath seemingly ordinary lives and the importance of persistence in tragedy. The more evidence investigation unfolded, one person emerged at the center of it all: Reginald Harris, father of Gabriella's children and former partner. His name quickly became synonymous with suspicion, and evidence against him mounted with devastating clarity. Harris was no stranger to law enforcement. He had a track record of reports concerning domestic disputes and violent behavior in his past, but none prepared the community for the gravity of current accusations. Charged with murder, aggravated assault, terroristic threats, battery, family violence, making false statements, and tampering with evidence, Harris stood accused of silencing a young mother forever. The prosecution's strategy focused on demonstrating Harris's intent and actions through concrete evidence and witness accounts. Suspicious texts, discovery of human remains, and collaborative testimonies formed a narrative revealing truth behind Gabriella's disappearance and death. While trial details and defense arguments remained largely confidential, the case illuminated broader issues surrounding domestic violence and vulnerabilities faced by young mothers. It highlighted the urgent need for communities and legal systems to protect those at risk and ensure perpetrators are held responsible. The courtroom drama was not just about one man or one crime. It was about a system striving to deliver justice amid complexity and pain. It was about a family's fight to honor a daughter's memory and find closure in unimaginable loss. As the legal process continued, the community watched closely, hoping for resolution, bringing truth and healing. The case served as a stark reminder of consequences of unchecked violence and importance of vigilance in protecting the vulnerable. The discovery of Gabriella Dixon's remains marked a devastating turning point, confirming worst fears haunting her family and community for weeks. But while truth brought sorrow, it ignited fierce determination among those who loved her to ensure her story would not be forgotten, and her death would serve a greater purpose. Grief settled heavily over Gabriella's family, especially her mother, Gaby Searcy, whose tireless search for answers became a beacon of hope amid despair. For Gaby, the pain was profound loss of a daughter, granddaughter, and a future that would never be. Yet even in sorrow's depths, she found strength to speak out, advocate, and demand justice. The emotional toll on the family was immense. The haunting words of a toddler, "Mama is sleeping in blood," echoed relentlessly, a dreadful reminder of innocence shattered by violence. Each day without Gabriella was a struggle to hold memories and find meaning in a tragedy that seemed senseless. The community was deeply affected. Gabriella's story resonated far beyond Macon, sparking conversations about the hidden dangers many young mothers face behind closed doors. Her life and death became a catalyst for awareness, shining a light on the harsh realities of domestic violence and the urgent need for support systems to protect vulnerable families. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers who had never met Gabriella found themselves emotionally moved by her story. They saw in her the countless women silently enduring abuse, afraid to speak out, or unsure where to turn for help. Gabriella's voice, once confined to quiet pleas and cautious social media posts, grew louder in death, echoing through community forums, church gatherings, schools, and local media outlets. Local advocates and organizations, inspired by Gabriella's story, renewed efforts to raise awareness and provide resources for abuse victims. Shelters reported increased calls and walk-ins, with many women citing Gabriella's story as the reason they decided to seek help. New workshops were organized to educate the public on recognizing signs of abuse and understanding the psychological and emotional impact it has, not just on the victims, but on their children and families as well. Community leaders collaborated with law enforcement and healthcare professionals to streamline reporting mechanisms and create safer spaces for victims to share their stories without fear of retribution or judgment. Social workers began conducting more outreach in schools and maternity clinics, offering discreet access to support services for pregnant women and new mothers, a demographic increasingly recognized as vulnerable to intimate partner violence. The case shows the importance of listening to those who reach out, whether through social media, in passing conversation, or a desperate message hidden between the lines, and responding with both compassion and action. Gabriella's tragic experience became a painful reminder that silence can be deadly, and that communities must remain vigilant, proactive, and supportive. Her legacy continues to inspire. Annual awareness walks are now held in her name, with proceeds going to local shelters and counseling services. A scholarship fund was also established for children affected by domestic violence, ensuring that even in death, Gabriella is helping others find a way forward. As one advocate put it, Gabriella's story is not just about tragedy. It's a call to action, a plea to see, to hear, and to help. And we must never stop answering that call. Gabriella's legacy extended beyond her tragic end. She was remembered as a devoted mother, loving daughter, and young woman whose life, though cut short, touched many. Her family's public search and grief humanized her beyond headlines and charges, reminding all who followed the story of the real person behind the tragedy. The case systemic challenges in addressing domestic violence. It raised questions about recognizing and acting on early warning signs and how communities can better support those at risk. Gabriella's story became a call to action, a plea for vigilance, empathy, and justice. In months and years following the investigation, Gabriella's family continued to advocate for change. They worked to ensure her memory would inspire efforts to prevent similar tragedies and support those caught in abuse cycles. Their resilience became a testament to families' strength facing unimaginable loss. While the legal process remained ongoing, Gabriella's story's impact was already felt in many hearts. It served as a reminder that behind every case is a human life, with dreams, struggles, and a family forever changed. As the community grappled with the aftermath, a lingering question remained. How many more lives could be saved if voices like Gabriella's were heard sooner? How many families spared the pain of loss? Her story is a solemn reminder that justice is not only about punishment, but about prevention, healing, and hope. It calls on all of us to pay attention, listen deeply, and act with compassion. Gabriella Dixon's life, though tragically brief, left an indelible mark, challenging us to confront uncomfortable truths and work toward a safer, more caring world. Gabriella Dixon's story is a haunting reminder of how fragile life can be and how quickly the people we love can be taken under the darkest circumstances. It leaves us with more questions than answers, challenging us to look beyond the surface and confront hidden dangers too often unseen. Her disappearance and tragic death exposed devastating consequences of violence within families, violence masked by silence, fear, and complex ties. Gabriella's voice, once shared through desperate posts on social media, now echoes as a call to awareness, urging communities to listen carefully, act decisively, and protect those who cannot protect themselves. As investigation and legal proceedings continue, Gabriella's family remains steadfast in pursuit of justice. Their courage and resilience remind us that behind every case are real people, mothers, daughters, children, whose lives deserve dignity and truth. At Truly Criminal Network, our team is committed to telling stories like Gabriella's with care, respect, and integrity. We honor victims by sharing their humanity, not just the crime. Through these stories, we hope to foster understanding, compassion, and deeper awareness of challenges many faces in silence. If this case has moved you to think differently about the relationships around you, or if you want to stay informed about other cases where justice and truth matter above all else, like this video, hit the subscribe button. And if you have a story like Gabriella's you will like us to cover, leave a comment below saying, "I have a story," and our team will reach out to you. See you in the next one.